Hey folks, welcome to Helen Roscoe Yoga on YouTube. I hope you are well. In this short practice today, we're going to explore some seated poses, and in particular, we're going to be looking at seated twists. So in order for you to have what you need for this practice, space to move freely, a blanket or a block is always really useful. And you could also take this practice using a chair as well. So if you would like to get a chair for this practice, please do get one available. I'll just make sure there's one for us to use as well. Okay. So we want to start in a comfortable seated position of your choice. Whether you are on a chair, whether you are on the ground, hips raised, it's always really useful to start with the hips raised because we tend to be tight in the hamstrings as humans, and it means that our angle from the ground has opened up a little bit, so we're not quite so close in the hips in terms of that right angle, which often means that our lower back tends to come under unnecessary strain and we have that roundedness in the back. If we can open up that angle a little bit in the hips, a little bit of almost like a rotation in the pelvis allows us to find that lift in the spine. So a sense of lifting up through the crown of our head. Now we're going to start with some somatic practice of bringing the hands onto the legs and allowing ourselves to move into seated work through touch. So we're kind of feeling our body, feeling where we might require a little bit of healing, feeling where we need the healing. But just kind of where are our tight spots? Kind of hips, outer edges of the hips, hip flexors. They tend to be pretty active when we're seated, definitely an overworked part of the body because we spend a lot of time seated. Underneath the back of the knees, allowing yourself to have a little bit of touch there, hamstrings most definitely for me, calves, and you can start moving yourself into a gentle forward folding action here. And you can do the same thing from a chair as well. You can be sat on the chair and taking yourself down through the legs with your hands. So that seat coming in and folding and bringing yourself up. And it's almost like you kind of prepare the tissue, pumping the tissue, the fascia, with your hands, with this sense of touch. And we want our fascia to be elastic. If it gets dry, if we're not fluid enough, taking on enough fluids or finding the movements that help us to stretch and elongate the fascia, it can easily get stuck. And if we have a muscle tear or an injury or a scar, the fascia will get sucked into that. So it's really useful to sort of do this self-care practice, not just from that sense of touch and feeling, but also for our tissue as well, our connective tissue. Okay, so when we have that ready, we'll just take the feet a little bit wider, and we're going to start with a bit of a spiraling movement. You bring your hands into an interlace position, and as you start to move, just take a breath in here, lifting the palms, and then on the exhale, spiraling from one foot to the other, and then upwards. And this is an approach that I teach very often with my pregnant clients, but I think it's a really useful practice for anyone. Again, you can take the same practice from the chair. You're sat on the chair, your feet are on the ground, your knees are bent, and you spiral from one leg to the other, forwards and backwards. And we want it to be a sense of we're moving through a thick body of porridge, like a bowl of porridge. Stirring the porridge, changing direction, spiraling around the space. Exhale takes you forwards, inhale lifts you up. So try that 2 or 3 more times in this way. And then bringing yourself up to center when you feel ready. And let yourself just settle there for a few moments. Legs, you can always support them to come back. You could always place something underneath your knees here as well, like a bolster or a rolled up yoga mat or a blanket. It can be really useful to support the back of the knees. So our first seated pose will take Paschimottanasana, forward fold, just coming in through the navel. You could find a little bit of length in your spine here in Dandasana, staff pose, just lengthening through your fingertips, lifting the chest, lifting yourself. And then with your next exhale, slide the hands down, bend your knees as much as you need to, rounding your body over your thighs, over your legs. Inhale to come up. Exhale, slide the hands down. Your chest is lifted and then you round over the thighs. Inhale to come up. So let's do that twice more. Preparing the ground, allowing our spine to round and flex, and then lengthen, elongate, move through neutral, and then round and flex. So you're just allowing your spine to move through flexion and gentle elongation, no back bending, but a gentle sense of expansion with those inhalations as you come upright. And the next time that you come up, just see if you can find that again, a sense of lift in your spine as you anchor down through the sit bones. So our first twisting pose, bringing in the left foot, bringing the foot parallel to your right knee. Sage twist, Matsyendrasana. But I'm doing it maybe a little bit differently from what we might know. We want to have a little bit of space between the foot and the knee, and the hand can come onto the front of the shin bone here. We're going to take a moment to breathe in, facing forwards, and then on the exhale, exploring a gentle turn towards the left. I'm trying to keep my arms fairly relaxed here. I don't want to have unnecessary tension coming up into my shoulders. As I breathe in, lifting through the spine on the exhale, encouraging the spiral. This idea of a dishcloth rinsing. My pelvis is relatively fixed here. There's no swinging or swaying in the pelvis. And at a certain point then we're bringing the back hand behind, and again I don't want to exacerbate tension in my shoulders, so just allowing that front arm to rest as with each exhalation I continue to explore the spiral. Maybe the neck getting a little bit more involved, moving towards the space behind me, that spiral from the navel, the lower back, the mid-spine, and then the neck, the upper spine. Come back on a breath in, extend your leg out in front of you, and then the same on the opposite side. So I'm just going to move to the chair now, but we'll do the same approach. You stay in that forward-facing position. If you're doing this practice on a chair, you can come to the side of the chair and focus on the spiral, moving hands towards the back of the chair as you explore with the exhalation. And the exhalation favors the spiraling action because we draw in through the navel. Naturally, there's a little bit of core activation each time we exhale, or at least we can encourage it. And that in turn can help to affect the lower curves of the spine, the lumbar region, inviting that to curve gently. And then that ripple moves into the rib cage, and the thoracic spine starts to ripple and turn. So that core support enables the ripple along the spine, and the neck can be the last thing to go. Bring yourself back to center and take a moment to notice how you feel. Now, if you would like to, we could explore that posture again, maybe not on the support. You could always come away from the support on the ground. We want the sit bones to be rooted on the ground. So sometimes we're shifting around in these things. We want both sit bones to be on the ground. This time we're going to bring the left foot over the right foot, still keeping those sit bones down. And then you have the option then to bring your right heel in towards your left bottom. But again, if that changes the position of your sit bones, so if you find yourself now fully on your right sit bones, maybe we want to keep that the right leg straight so that the sit bones can be anchored down. So see which position feels most supportive for you. Anchoring down through the back of the legs, your foot that's on the floor, a sense of lift in your spine. As you start to explore on the exhale, inviting the spiraling of the spine. I don't want to pull myself into this. I want to be gentle. I want to work with the breath. Spiraling slowly. And one of my teachers, she kind of offers me this little kind of ripple to help me move through that spiraling, so I'm not getting rigid in my body. If you have the leg drawn in, you could think about turning gradually towards that space. But again, when you find yourself there, maybe not fixed, maybe you're just going to come into that ripple. With each exhalation, the ripple encouraging the turn. Shoulder soften away from your ears. So what do we need to do to find more ease, more sukha? The breath in is long in the spine. The breath out, down through the pelvis. Exhale, navel draws in, lumbar is supported, thoracic spine can turn. And the neck will pretty much turn anyway. We have that more freedom of movement in the neck. So that just needs to move within a range that feels available to you without any force. Unravel, come back to center. Stretch your legs out in front of you. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. So this is similar on the chair to what we did previously in sage. So you can continue with that approach. And then bringing the foot in on the opposite side. So the right leg moves over the left. And then if you'd like to, just bringing that left foot in towards the right sit bone. So I can feel my right sit bone is lifted. So I'm just going to keep that left foot on the ground. And pausing here, lifting through the spine, elongating, and then on the exhale, starting to explore the spiral. Slowly pause at each point on the in-breath and then explore the spiral a little bit further. Maybe the back hand moves behind you, the front arm. I try not to move into those binds. I try to let the breath be the turn rather than bringing myself in through unnecessary force. So coming through this approach on the chair, you could always try it a little bit differently. Bringing yourself hand onto the back of the chair, maybe taking a hold of one of the chair supports and exploring the turn gradually. And if you wanted to explore movement with the legs, you could cross one leg over and explore the turn in that way. So there's other ways that you can influence what's happening in the hips as well. Maybe crossing the leg over and exploring the turn. So just exploring those options available to you so that you can experience the spiral of the spine. When you come back to center, unravel yourself. Think of that process of unraveling. It's extremely useful for the joints, the mobility, the fluidity that it brings to the joints. That's why twists are so helpful, or can be so helpful. And we'll just take ourselves through that forward fold again to bring us into a symmetrical position for the body. So this time I'm going to show you the option of having a blanket underneath your knees. And on the exhalation, rolling down again. You could lift a little with your spine, so we find that length in the spine, crown of head lifting, and then on the exhale, rounding down and folding, softening the knees a little bit more if you need to. Each exhalation, releasing down, finding that flexed position of the spine again. Another option is that you bend your knees more deeply and you support your spine fully, your head fully, cross your hands, like you're settling in. The twists traditionally tend to stimulate the digestive fire, so they can be internally quite stimulating, mood shifting. So we want to just settle maybe some of that heat that you've generated. And the forward fold enables us to calm and soothe the system. Let your breath be light. And then when you feel ready, bring yourself up. And we'll just take a few moments in a seated position of your choice, resting your hands onto your lap. A little bit of a ripple, maybe some cat tilt. Notice how your hips feel, your spine, your lower back, ripple along your lower back towards the space in between your shoulders, and then invite your shoulders to drop down from your ears. The back of your neck is long, your chin draws in, the crown of your head lifted. Coming to the breath once again. Spiraling breath from your center. As you breathe in, expands outwardly into the space around you, into the universe, a sense of openness. And as you breathe out, that spiral reverses, follow the journey back. Letting go of unnecessary tension, softening down towards the earth. Okay, thank you very much for joining me for this seated practice. I hope you enjoyed the spirals. Let me know how you got on. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Thank you.